Goliath basing, or indeed any Necromunda basing, or indeed any basing that you'd like to look very rusty and beaten up, this is the tutorial for you. We begin the process by adding a mid-tone brown, in this case brown leather, onto a black base coat. Next up, we use rust. It would feel impolite not to use a colour specifically designed for this, and we spray it on random places onto the base itself. The more random, the better. As human beings, we have a horrible habit of forming habits and patterns. We want to avoid that as much as possible. Troll Slayer Orange is then added to the airbrush. It's quite thick, this formulation. In the airbrush itself, we do run the risk of it clogging up, but such are the sacrifices we need to make. Oh, let's zoom it in till eyes cross. Okay, next up we'll be using a splattering technique, which is awfully fun to do. It feels like you're in school again. So you load up a crappy brush with Troll Slayer Orange, and then you spray it on. Some will be more successful than others. That wasn't a particularly successful one. So I'm just spraying in, I'm trying to spray as randomly as I can. Random, random, random. Very key word for these opening stages of the work. Let's try on Zargo's base, my Gan leader. Okay, now once we've got a handle of this technique, away we go. I'm just shooting air through this. If I feel like it needs a bit of softening up, well, then I'll shoot the paint through it. So air first, then the paint. Or indeed the other way around, it doesn't really matter, as long as the paint is on there. And now we have a very handsome Jackson Pollock base. I'm just trying to dab it down a little bit more. Okay, we use hairspray as an intermediary layer. The cheapest, strongest hairspray that you can possibly find. And then we use somber grey from VALLEJO Air to airbrush the entirety of the base. Yeah, nice even coverage. We can leave a little bit of the brown poking out of the very darkest recesses, but for the most part cover it. I've added a small amount of pig white into the mixture just to brighten it up. And again, random spots. I need a thesaurus. I need to find another word for random. Different. Okay, next up, we use Golden Yellow by VALLEJO, and we there are a few hallmarks when it comes to Games Workshop painting. One of which, when it comes to Necromunda, adding hazard stripes. You need to add hazard stripes to your miniatures, especially the bases. So I've added Golden Yellow. It doesn't even need to be that strong of a base layer. It can be quite streaky. So just one layer. I've got a stencil from ANARCHY models. It's one of the vinyl ones that they sell. Sorry, one of the plastic ones that they sell. I'll try and bind it to the surface of the base as close as I can. I'm using a Thamar black. Looking at this video in reflection, the paint is slightly too thin. Thicken that up a bit more. Aim for one coat coverage. Yes, I said it. Thick paint, one coat coverage. It's that once a year feeling you get to have. Now if you're watching this in sequence, you're watching this at Christmas. So treat yourself. Treat yourself for that extra Ferrero Rocher and thick paint run through your airbrush. If you aren't watching this in sequence, well, I don't know what to say. I'm actually recording this in September as well, and this video itself was made in May the previous year. Okay, now we once everything is dry, we need to add a layer of warm water across the entire base, shot through an airbrush preferably, or the low-tech solution, just take a brush and dab it on. Then we take a very hard bristled brush. This is from an airbrushing cleaning key, and I roll this across the surface of the base, picking up any excess yeah, just chipping it up. Now some of the bases I want to have more of a bronzed appearance, more of a worked in rust, so I'll just wholesale remove the paint from some of the sections. Very easy to do because the paint will be activated in the warm water, and we can nearly remove the entirety of it. So pick areas that you no longer want to have, and run crappy brushes in there that are coming to the end of their shelf life, and lift it off wholesale. If there's some grey left over in the recesses or just been randomly chipped up, great, it all adds to the effect. Let's have another look at this. Warm water across the entirety of the base, hard bristled brush, rolling it gently at first across the surface, and as the water starts to dry we can be a bit more aggressive. The more aggressive you are, the more paint will lift off. The more hairspray you apply, the more the paint will come off. So if you want a light rusting effect, less hairspray and less aggressive movements with the brush, with the bristles of the brush. The more rusted the appearance, the more hairspray you add, and the more aggressive you are. So if you want more, give more. Okay, I guess that ties into the theme of Christmas as well. If you want more from Christmas, give more. Apparently it's psychologically it's better for you. I think the older you get as well, because you don't want, I can admit this to you because I very much doubt my mother-in-law will be watching this, but every single year Star Wars slippers or whatever. I can't stand Star Wars. Next up, I'm using a very ancient paint in the form of MITHRIL silver. Now I understand if you don't have a 30-year-old paint in your collection, by all means use a light silver. Whatever light silver you have in your collection is fine. The bronze-ish layers are made by adding a layer of decayed metal. Again, across a few of the surfaces. The Necromunda Bases, they come with all different kinds of textures and just different bits happening on them. Make sure to exploit that. Paint them in different colours. Paint the portions in different colours. Okay, Verdigris oil by Wilder is applied into the recesses of the copper. I wanted the serialised number that's sitting just underneath Zargo's head there. Thank you very much for getting in the way. I wanted that to pop out, to leap out at you, so I've run a bit of verdigris in there, a bit of blue to contrast with the warmer tones of the copper. And next up I'll be adding brown rust speckling effect. It'll be popping up in a couple of seconds to make sure I was paying attention when I wrote it into the script. Yeah, brown rust by NITRO line. That's a Wilder colour. So Wilder is a company. Actually, the gentleman's really interesting. He developed a lot of the weathering techniques we know today. He's come up with a whole line of different things. This is an enamel-based paint. I'll be working this into the recesses of the more rusted portions. So the bit I've lifted off the paint wholesale, I'll just be speckling this on. I'll be stabbing it at the surface. To give a more of a broken appearance. But these bases are prime for any kind of weathering effects you want to apply to them. Streaking grime, rust effects, weathering powder. Really sky's the limit when it comes to these things. I would urge you to be interesting in your colour selection, in your colour choice. Don't only stick to very dull, drab colours. For example, the sombre grey that we use, there's quite a lot of purple in there, it's quite a light colour. But when we start the weathering process, it will dull and darken everything down. So use a variety of not only colours, tones, brush technique, stabbing, glazing, wholesale removing with a hairspray technique, but also your choice in value behind the colour. So value being the range between black and white. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you are watching this around Christmas time, I think it'll be a bit too early to wish you Merry Christmas. This is the problem of recording so far ahead of time. I'm not really in sync with the season in which this has been filmed. I imagine it's a bit like when people film Christmas specials. I know Gordon Ramsay in his kitchen, and he's cooking a full-on turkey dinner in August. and his house is decorated in Christmas Day. He's all wrapped up in a nice scarf, and he's sweltering. Lucky for me, it's always cold and raining in Wales. Righto, I'll catch you in the next vid. We'll have a whole series during the Christmas holidays on this miniature, and on various other things, whatever I can use to plug up those 25 days of Christmas. Okay, catch you soon. Bye bye. Bye 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 bye.